You know, it's been quite some time since I felt this way about a new anime, especially with how newer seasonals are handled nowadays, but there comes a time when you just find that gem from the stash, and honestly, this season has so many to pick and choose from. And with a jam-packed season like this one, it's been really tough to come down and stick to a few to watch week by week. But one specifically has definitely stuck out to me the most, and probably the reason why you all clicked on this video was because of a little up-and-coming series known as Tokyo Revengers. And just before we get into the video any further, make sure you leave a like on the video, and if you are new to the channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss out on another new video. Now honestly, at first, this anime threw me for a loop, because prior to it coming out, I had no idea that this series was going to be as convoluted as I thought it was going to be. My knowledge beforehand was that this series was going to be about a bunch of gangs and delinquency within the Tokyo prefecture. So already, if you are familiar with this series, you probably understand why someone like myself, and pretty much just any average watcher of the series, could be confused from basically just what happens in the first couple of episodes of the anime. And don't get me wrong, being someone who's now caught up with the anime and is now reading the manga, the plot and premise of the series is pretty easy to catch on to once you dive more in depth into the series. But the point is, at first, it's nothing like you would expect, and that to me is something I thrive for when getting into a new anime and or manga. But the thing is, if you haven't already got into the series yet, I would highly suggest you go and check out the first 4 episodes that are already out to maybe get a brief understanding about what I'm talking about before I talk about the more important details that reside within this series. Oh, and by the way, if you're confused about any sort of Nazi symbol that takes place within this video, just know that this symbol is a symbol of Buddhism peace and not really what you think it is at all. So if you're struggling to understand that, just know that it's literally a Google search away from educating yourself on the proper conduct. But with all that being said, I think it's time we talk and discuss about one of the best seasonal animes that is currently running right now, known as Tokyo Revengers. So I planned on saving this topic for last, but now looking back on it, it really just makes sense to cover it from the start because of just the variety that compacts within this topic. And if you're someone who is mainly a fan of stuff like Re:Zero, Steins Gate, Erased, and even something like Dragon Ball Z, then really this anime and manga is something I think you would enjoy. Because just within this anime alone, it's true that at surface value, that this series is surrounded by delinquents and gangs and all that kind of stuff. It tackles what something in history within the Tokyo Manjin gang can be pictured like from an anime fan's perspective. And along with the other animes that I mentioned, you could probably understand like a rough draft of what this anime might be about. And the key thing that most likely strikes you is time travel. And you would be right to think that and understand that because the factor is kind of like the odd one out in a sense. And just why it's so fascinating to see being tackled from a story about delinquents and gangs. It's honestly at first look doesn't fit the criteria at all when you think about it. But that's just it. Something so unique and so interesting from such an odd concept being tackled and thoroughly well. It's kind of why I think most of the people who found this series fell so much in love with it. And with the anime being something that surfaces around these kind of topics so well, it's just kind of the reason why I decided to get so much into it. And with the story so unique and interesting as this one, it would be wrong to not give my opinions on just how the story goes about itself. So to take it a step further, the plot of the series is pretty out there and from my point of view, easily attaches you to most of the characters. And our main character Takemichi is pretty much this mid-20s good for nothing that is living through his days. And obtainably, he is out and about and just one day, he gets pushed onto this railroad, inevitably leading to his death from a train. In that moment, he is sent to the past and is confused on just what happened. And this certain trope I've seen similarly mentioned from the previous animes that I talked about beforehand, but the way this series tackles and develops certain moments, it's just like I've said in such a unique but delinquent way. But as said, Takemichi eventually realizes what he's meant to do, and that's to save the love of his life from her future demise. Because from the future, that love Hina, the character I'm talking about, is dead during his timeline. So basically, to cut it short without spoiling because I would hate to spoil, this kid named Takemichi is sent to the past to save this girl that he used to like from her inevitable death that takes place 12 years within the future. And pretty much in order to do that, he has to go back and rewrite the events and that end up taking place down the line in the future. The only problem is, most of the struggles he has to go through are done by gang and delinquent affiliated events. So you could probably only just imagine how much pain and suffering he has to go through in order to just save one girl. And of course, if you read the manga, you will know that later on the events that occur aren't just for saving that one girl, but the friends he also has and meets along the way. But besides that, the plot is something that intrigues my interest a ton, and if you're not already a fan, you should definitely check out this anime and manga. But now getting more in depth from just my knowledge from the anime and somewhat of the manga of the characters itself, I'll just be flat out and say it right now. From my time of reading and watching this series, the most compelling off the bat is clearly Mike Mikey and Draken. These characters interest me so much, it's almost hard to not get attached to these two, especially early on. Mikey, of course, I think for myself personally, it's just kind of like that default preset I have when it comes to liking characters, the more so goofy but really serious at times type of character. Is honestly just what I strive for when watching and or reading a series. But Draken on the other hand was an odd one for me and still as right now, I can't put my finger on it at the moment, but something about his characteristic traits and just maybe his dynamic with Mikey is a huge reason why I mess with him so much. Even with his interactions with Takemichi and just how he truly feels about the people in Toman and how he carries himself when it comes to situations that don't even involve his presence. At times it makes me wonder because eventually after this recording, I'll continue to read more of the manga and elaborate more in depth on characters within the future. But as of right now, I think it's hard for the average watcher and a reader from where I'm at to not enjoy these characters a lot more than the rest of the cast. And as for our main character Takemichi, the character we follow through the story with, he's definitely an odd one out when it comes to the most shonen protagonists, but at heart he carries that same self-pride and determination as most of the other protagonists in shonen. But overall, the cast and characters that spans from the series of Tokyo Revengers is all around good, and I think it has a good balance of characters that you're supposed to intentionally take a liking to, and a ton of characters that you're supposed to dislike and find hatred towards within the series. And really, at the end of the day, that's what makes a good series, if not a great series, because of the balance between the two. Even so, the mix-up between the two where maybe at first you didn't like a character, and then now maybe over time you're starting to like a little bit more of the character as you grow with him over time. And I think Tokyo Revengers, in terms of just its general cast, has a good mix of quality and characters. But moving on to a little bit more of the manga of the series, I just kind of wanted to preface this now as of this recording, I'm only 50 something chapters into the series, but who knows, by the time this video comes out, that probably has changed. It was just a bit too much on my mind to not make a video before catching up to the manga, but just depending on how much I enjoy this series and how well this video ends up doing, I might just have to make a video solely on the manga of the series. So anyways, from my experience, the manga has been just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, mainly due to the content that happens further on down the line. And coming from someone who pretty much thought that this manga was going to drag on in terms of its main goal, I thought that was going to happen, and to a certain extent, it pretty much did in a way, and I honestly like that to some degree because it keeps the main character and the characters around Takemichi to continuously grow in that cycle, including the system of how the delinquents work and how it works to rise and gain power in the gang. It's obviously a different case because our main character has an advantage to his disadvantages of time travel and how weak he is towards the start. Moving onwards, it feels like in the series that other characters have what is to be a similar time ability to Takemichi, but that just isn't the case. From what I know right now, it's pretty much at a surface-based value, but I can't wait to read more and give you all some more thoughts on this wonderful series. But if you want me to touch up more upon heavily spoilers, don't forget to let me know in the comment section below and leave a like because it definitely helps out knowing that you guys want to see more content on this series. And I honestly couldn't be more happier with the series that I'm currently reading and watching right now because it just gives me so much more hype and time to push out these videos for each and every single one of you who supports the channel. But if you want to stay updated, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord if you have not already. We got the Discord up and running again, so join the Discord in the link in the description box down below. Also, shout out to the first legendary member rank on the channel, the meaning of nerd. And with that, everyone, my Twitter's at AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.